Philippine-Australia relations are entering a new phase, forging a strategic partnership to navigate global challenges from maritime security to economic growth and cyber defense. Leading this transformation is an influential woman and veteran diplomat who thrives in an ever-evolving world. Join us as we dive into an insightful conversation with Australian Ambassador HKU. Ambassador HKU, thank you for granting Newswatch Plus this interview.
Thank you, Tristan. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
So let me begin with this. The Philippine-Australia relations are leveling up, and President Bongbong Marcos and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese are both committed to a strategic partnership. Could you tell us more about the progress of this partnership?
Well, as you know, it was signed in September by both our leaders, and since then, I think it's fair to say we've seen strategic partnership in action in all fronts. That has actually led to further cooperation in new areas like cybersecurity and technology, civil maritime security, and even competition policy. And that's without even mentioning good work we're doing in the development space, and in particular in improving productivity of agricultural sector in the Philippines.
Now let's zero in on preserving the international rules-based order. Could you reiterate the position of the Australian government when it comes to the situation in the West Philippine Sea or in the Greater South China Sea?
Of course, very happy to reiterate Australian government's position on this, which has been consistent, which is that the rules-based order has to prevail. When it comes to freedom of navigation and overflight, that is in the interest of everyone in the world, and in particular when it comes to the South China Sea. For a country like Australia, where we rely heavily on our exports and especially shipping lanes to ensure prosperity for our nation, it's extremely important that the South China Sea remains open to the global community, and that it is ruled by UNCLOS, UN's Convention on Law of the Sea. It makes very clear, what is allowed and what isn't, and it is in everyone's interest that the UNCLOS prevails and that we protect the rules-based order.
So how does Australia view the assertive transparency approach of the Marcos administration when it comes to exposing illegal activities in the South China Sea?
I think that's best answered by pointing you to all the tweets that I've been issuing following Marcos administration's statements about the behaviours and about the concerns that they've observed in the West Philippine Sea, or that they've experienced in the West Philippine Sea. Clearly, our Australian government is supportive of the Philippine government's policy and actions in this front, and we are there expressing our support every time there are tensions, there are incidents. We have been one of the first countries to go out and express our support.
But what is your expectations, or what are your biggest concern if the escalations, if the situation escalates further?
Look, even Foreign Minister Wong has made it very clear it's in all our interests to work towards conflict prevention. This is what she calls it. And I think it's so important that we engage in dialogue with all countries to try and work through the differences. And we have to, there is actually a very neat statement that our Foreign Minister and our Prime Minister uses, that we should all agree when we can and disagree when we must, and always work in the national interest.
Okay, shifting topics, economic partnership, Ambassador,
yes.
Because while we're reaching great heights great potential in the defense and maritime security partnership, also not to ignore the potential in the economic sphere.
Absolutely.
Where are we? What are the efforts being done to increase the the partnership or cooperation when it comes to the economic aspect of the relations?
Yeah, look, this is a really exciting space. Because one could say, given our long-standing relationship and partnership, that perhaps in the past, economic space was where it was a little bit underdone. Not the case anymore. With the Albanese government announcing the Southeast Asian Economic Strategy to 2040, what Australian government has done is really put Southeast Asia clearly on the map as Australia's target to further deepen our trade and investment relationship. And what's really exciting about this strategy is that it's not about Australia wanting to just sell things to Southeast Asia and wanting to just get your investment into Australia. It's two-way trade and investment that we're interested in. So we are interested in investing in the Philippines and buying Philippine products just as much as the other way around. So with this strategy, there has been a huge concerted effort in getting Australian businesses to come to the Philippines and see all these amazing economic opportunities. And in addition to that, this is the really exciting bit. We are currently designing an economic development program for the Philippines worth $45 million over 5 years. What we want to do with that program, which we are co-designing with the Philippines, of course, based on your priority, is really help the Philippine government achieve the right regulatory reforms to make your economy even more investment friendly and even more open to trade. So we're really excited about that. And we want to make sure that we add ballast to the already fantastic work that's underway by the Marcos administration to cut red tape, to open up to competition.
Ease of doing business.
And improve ease of doing business.
So the Economic Development Plan,
Yes.
Ambassador, you're working with which agencies?
Well, many that will be affected by that. So as I said, we are currently in the design process, so there will be a lot of consultation that will be taken with departments like NEDA, obviously NEDA being the key one, given that they hold the economic development plan for the Philippines, but with Department of Finance, with all the departments where they have huge leverage point for your economic growth.
All right, and what is your timeline for this to be finished?
Yes, well, we are hoping to be in the position to launch it within a few months.
So
certainly.
this year, is it?
Yeah, so certainly to be able to design it, even if we're not in a position to launch the plan, to be able to design it and within the end of this year.
Madam Ambassador, almost 2 years in Manila. First, I want to ask you, how do you measure the Philippine-Australian relations, first as a diplomat and second as a foreigner assigned in Manila?
Well, certainly as a diplomat, I will give it an A+. The relationship is so strong, it's going from strength to strength, and many will actually tell you it's at the highest point it's ever been. So very exciting times, especially as an Australian ambassador to the Philippines. As a foreigner, I also think it's on the upward trajectory. I think in the recent years, just the general public in both the Philippines and Australia have started to really notice each other. And it's like we are now clearly in each other's map. And we know why we are important to each other. And there is this general pull towards each other because we do share same values and same dream and objective of wanting to create a region that is peaceful, stable, and prosperous.
Okay, now let's do a short trip down memory lane, Ambassador, because they said first impressions last. So I'm curious about your first impressions in Manila, and this is also true for you during, for your first impressions about Filipinos, especially during your early months here in the Philippines.
Yes, I think you're right. First impression really lasts. And I remember still clearly arriving in this city, vibrant, big city, and every interaction I had with Filipinos, I just couldn't get over how warm and generous and friendly they all were. And it really struck me because it is a big metropolis of a city, and often what you find when you go to a big city like that is people just minding their own business, too busy, it's too much of a hassle. But here, that's not the case. So every Filipino that I engaged with, they were so warm and friendly, and it really struck me as something that is unique to the Philippines, and thus my absolute love for the Philippines. That impression has never changed since. If anything, it's been reinforced every day. And one other thing is how Filipinos actually engage with you in conversations with such genuine earnest, and I really love that. People that I talk to, people I engage with, they're so smart and they just have so much to give and so much to add. And I find each engagement that I have with a lot of my contacts and my friends and my relationships that I have, that every interaction is just so genuine and so meaningful.
Ambassador, I want to make people know about some of your backstory. I mean, in a nutshell, how has your journey as a diplomat been so far, and was this your first choice?
Yes, so in a nutshell, I've been a public servant for a long time, since 1991, but I didn't actually join foreign service until 2018. And upon joining, I actually did one posting as a deputy ambassador to Tokyo, and then the second posting that I've done as a diplomat has been as the ambassador to the Philippines. And when this position came up, and I was looking around to see which position I wanted to put my hand up for, I can tell you honestly, Tristan, the Philippines was the only country I wanted out of a really long list of countries. Right from the beginning, I was absolutely committed to wanting to do this job because I just saw so much potential in this relationship. And I love the fact that there were so many aspects to this relationship as well. We talked about security, but we also talked about development cooperation, and of course the important economic cooperation too. So yes, right from day one, I was 100% in, and I was so eager to be appointed as the Australian ambassador to the Philippines.
And 2 years on, would you say that decision is worth it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would make that decision over and over and over again, even if I was given that opportunity.
But Ambassador, I'm curious, in your perspective, what makes an effective diplomat?
What makes an effective diplomat? Well, I think a really effective diplomat is someone who can relate to other people easily and make other person feel like they can really trust you, right? So that means you have to be really genuine. And I think you also have to be really clear about what you want to achieve, and thus actually have something to offer. I think sometimes people have this concept that diplomats are people who are just good at socializing with others. No, that's not what a good diplomat is. That is an important component of good interpersonal skills, but you really have to come forward with content and then engage with the other side with real content and with genuine and earnest objective of wanting to achieve a win-win wherever possible.
The Australian Embassy has a lot of programs, developmental, social, cultural programs. But which among these initiatives you're so passionate about, personal?
Oh gosh, well, all of them, but certainly when it comes to the Philippines, our work here, I have to say some of the programs that I feel most passionate about is when I see something that's very practical, that's changing people's lives. And I can give you two such examples. One is what we've been doing with soil health, to help the Philippines improve your agricultural productivity. And what we've done there is actually bring our soil scientists to the Philippines to teach you how to examine the quantity, the composition of soil, and with quantitative data, work out how to use fertilizer, what kind of fertilizer, and what kind of crops would actually have the biggest success of doing really well in soil like that. So we are actually rolling that out as we speak. And you can imagine the impact this is going to have to all your smallhold farmers out there and provinces where they rely heavily on agricultural sector for their prosperity. So that's one example where I'm just so excited by this project. And we've got some local leaders, domestic leaders that are championing this, putting their own resources into it, like Agusan del Sur, for example, and congressmen from that region who are really showing very clear leadership on this. Another example I can share along the same line of productivity is how our Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research has actually done some projects to teach farmers how to co-plant, so planting of vegetables and other things. And in particular, there was an area where all they ever planted were rubber plants. And of course, depending on the price of rubber, these farmers, sometimes had to chop them down and just throw them away with no income. So the ACR project showed them how it was possible to grow rubber, but alternatively also grow bananas at the same time, cacao at the same time, and other vegetables at the same time. Some of these farmers adopted this technique, and they were proudly showing some of the ACR project leads that their income had just quadrupled through this process. And I love this story where one farmer took the scientist to his farm and showed him this, really shabby wooden kind of, shed, and said, that used to be my house. And then he pointed to this concrete 2-story house, and he said, now that's my house. This is what your technique has done for me and my family.
It's a nice story. Actually, I heard the story also that you were, I think, the first ambassador to visit Abra.
Yes, I was.
And I'm sure you've been to a number of places, but which among the places that you've visited here in the Philippines really made a mark on you?
Oh, look, that's a very unfair question because they have all made an amazing mark on me, because the Philippines is actually quite a big country, with such vast range of nature, culture, and right down to food. And so everywhere I go, I really love experiencing different aspects of the Philippines.
As a last note, a year left to your tour of duty. So maybe what else do you want to accomplish before? I'm sure it's best asked when you're near the end of your term, but what else do you want to do, Ambassador? First, as ambassador, and second, maybe as a foreigner assigned here.
Well, what I'd really like to be able to say at the end of my tenure is to turn back and say, I was the Australian ambassador who not only got to witness the signing of our strategic partnership by our two leaders, but the one who actually put it into action. And that since then, Australia and the Philippines have become true strategic partners. and that this relationship will continue to be so for years and decades and centuries to come. Because I really do believe that we have really turned that, that point of inflection in our relationship, where we are now onto this path of something that's much, much greater than just a transactional bilateral relationship, to one where our actions and our cooperation together can really create a better world for all of us, not just Filipinos and Australians, but for the whole world. And so I would like to be able to say that when my time is up in a year's time, in a bit over a year's time, and I have a pretty good feeling that I am well on track to be able to say that.
All right, and we look forward to hearing you saying that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you,
Okay,
Tristan.
Australian Ambassador HKU, thank you for this conversation.
Thank you.